Hello, how are you? Today I'm going to tell you about the most important sign you need to pay attention to, the first sign your body gives that vitamin D might be low in your system. It is very important that you pay attention to the signs your body gives, mainly because when vitamin D starts to plummet in the body, the sign is usually not as obvious as people imagine. So it is very important that you watch this video. Vitamin D is very much related to weight loss, to osteoporosis, right? To the fixation of calcium in the bones. It is involved in hundreds of metabolic reactions, and it is very important that you pay attention to these signs. Stay until the end, you won't want to miss it. Before we start, I want to ask you if you take vitamin D supplements, if you check your vitamin D levels in your blood, if they have been low or not, how does that work in your routine? I would love to see your comment. Despite the name vitamin D, this name is historical. Vitamin D is not exactly a vitamin as most people imagine. Actually, it is a steroid prohormone. And common vitamins end up serving only as helpers in isolated chemical reactions. Vitamin D, on the other hand, is like a master key, capable of turning on more than 2,000 genes in our DNA. So the most common mistake is thinking that it's only for bones, osteoporosis, bone problems. We know that there are many locks for vitamin D, which are the so-called vitamin D receptors, spread throughout almost our entire body, in the muscles, in the brain, in the intestines, in the immune system's defense cells, and even in the pancreas. So when blood levels of vitamin D drop, this breakdown can be widespread, and the collapse can start long before we even think about the skeleton, osteoporosis, fractures. The first sign our body gives, I'll tell you about this first sign, but I'll also tell you about other very important signs to pay attention to, because as I told you, it acts in many areas of our body. But the first sign you should pay attention to if you start experiencing it, and you should ask your doctor to check your vitamin D levels, is muscle weakness, because the first sign of vitamin D deficiency often appears in the legs. Muscle tissue is densely populated with those receptors I mentioned, and vitamin D is that conductor, right, that will coordinate the entry of calcium into these muscle cells, which is a mandatory step for muscle fibers to be able to slide and generate the contraction force they need. Furthermore, vitamin D dictates the efficiency of the mitochondria, which are the energy powerhouses inside our cells. Mitochondria take the oxygen and the food we ingest and transform them into ATP, which is this energy currency of our body. So we have to think of ATP as if it were the fuel for our engine. When vitamin D is low, ATP production can plummet, and then without the fuel, our muscle enters premature fatigue. So since our legs carry the weight of our entire body, right, of course, the thigh and calf muscles are the first to complain, to become weaker. That's why for many people, getting up from a chair, climbing that step, going up those stairs can be a huge effort. So it's not necessarily just old age. Oh my God, it has to do with age. Not always. It can be a major first sign of vitamin D deficiency, and it's very important to know that. Another major sign of lack of vitamin D deficiency that people don't usually associate with it is that chronic fatigue. Sometimes we sleep for 8 hours, 7 hours, but even so, we wake up extremely tired. Although fatigue can be a more non-specific symptom, it can also indicate anemia, hypothyroidism. Vitamin D deficiency is very much related to this extreme tiredness because the body needs to spend triple the energy to perform basic tasks when we have a vitamin D deficiency. Cellular performance drops, and the body ends up operating in an energy-saving mode all day long. So even if you sleep, the tiredness remains very intense. This is a very important sign to pay attention to. Another symptom has to do, once again, with this muscular issue, this diffuse muscle pain. Many people wake up with a feeling of a sore body, chronic lower back pain, burning in the back that doesn't go away, sometimes pain in the legs, as I've already mentioned, pain in the arms, a strange diffuse pain all over the body. Chronic vitamin D deficiency causes hypersensitivity in the pain receptors of the muscles and fascia. So it's not a pain like from an injury, it's inflamed muscle tissue that may be worsening the sensation of pain due to the hormone deficiency. Another very important point, and it is very critical, especially if you are over 50 or 60 years old, is that vitamin D regulates the firing speed of motor neurons. This is a very important point because when this speed drops, when it decreases, proprioception, which is the brain's ability to understand the position of the body in space, ends up becoming slower. So what does that mean? Your reflexes may be delayed. So if you trip on your living room rug, it takes the brain a few milliseconds longer to understand and send the signal for the other leg to react. This might seem like a small amount, but the result can often lead to a loss of balance, to falls. And for an older person, this can even mean a fracture of a bone like the femur, or, in the hip, which can lead to a permanent loss of autonomy and independence. So this is very important. If you've been feeling dizzier, having more difficulty orienting yourself in space, or your reflexes aren't as sharp, it might be important to check your vitamin D levels as well. Another issue that might be related is what we call immunosenescence, because many older people, those over 50 or 60, are always catching colds, recurrent urinary tract infections, candidiasis, herpes, or taking weeks to recover from a simple cold. So, if this has been happening to you, it's important to pay attention. Vitamin D activates the production of natural antimicrobial substances in our body. So, without these substances, the immune system ends up becoming less potent, more defenseless, and natural defenses weaken. So it is indeed important to make this correlation between vitamin D and the immune system, because if you have been having frequent, recurring health problems, difficulty healing from infectious issues, for example, it is worth checking your vitamin D levels as well. Another thing that is usually related to vitamin D deficiency is that feeling of discouragement, that drop in serotonin. We know that there are vitamin D receptors in the prefrontal cortex and the hippocampus, which are areas of the brain that control our emotions. So it stimulates the production of serotonin, which is our well-being hormone, and low levels of vitamin D are directly associated with morning moodiness, weariness, discouragement, mental fatigue, and a feeling of sadness for no apparent reason. So, of course, this doesn't mean that vitamin D will cure depression on its own, but many people who are in treatment also need to have their vitamin D levels checked, because there is this correlation and it is worth investigating. Did you notice that throughout the video, I talked a lot about people in their 40s, 50s, 60s, or older, right? So why talk about this age group when we talk about vitamin D? We know that after the age of 60, this risk of deficiency increases significantly because aging skin loses a large part of its ability to synthesize this hormone through the sun. We estimate that after the age of 70, this production can drop by up to 75% for some people. It can be really impactful. Second, if you have abdominal fat or obesity, vitamin D, which is fat soluble, can get sequestered and trapped in adipose tissue, making it less available to circulate in the blood. So that's why for this age group, right, it's a risk group that we should talk about more, right? When the levels of vitamin D drop significantly, the intestine stops absorbing calcium from food in the most optimized way. And the body, which gets desperate for this calcium because calcium is necessary for muscle contraction. And muscle contraction isn't just you moving your arms, your legs, it's the heart, the intestine, other muscles in our body, right? So the body gets desperate, it sets off an alarm, it increases the production of parathyroid hormone, which goes straight to the skeleton and acts like a drill there, starting to steal calcium from inside our bones to dump into the blood. So this ends up becoming a domino effect that destroys bone density, which can cause osteopenia and even osteoporosis in many people. That's why so many elderly people who have a vitamin D deficiency can have problems related to breaks, fractures, and everything else. So this age group is one that needs to pay close attention and regularly check how their vitamin D levels are doing. A lot of people say, so I'll start getting a little sun inside the house to try and optimize this. So they take a chair, put it in front of the window to get some sun. You have to be careful to keep that window open because the window can block UVB rays. UVB rays are the primary builders of vitamin D. These rays have a shorter wavelength and they are the only ones truly responsible for interacting with the cholesterol in the skin and initiating the synthesis of vitamin D. The problem is that they have low penetration capacity, so they cannot pass through heavy clouds, for example, severe pollution, and they do not pass through the glass that is in the window of your wall at home, right? So UVA rays, right, on the other hand, are a silent invader because they have a longer wavelength. They do, in fact, pass through the atmosphere very well and go through the glass of windows and cars. They penetrate deeply into the skin and are the main ones related to, responsible for premature aging, wrinkles, spots, and the increase in skin cancer. So, in summary, the ray that was good, which is UVB, cannot pass through easily, but the ray that does harm passes through. So be careful with that, thinking, I'm inside the house. I'll get a sun. So the ideal is that you always get it during the times when you have the lowest incidence of UVA in the early morning, in the late afternoon, with the window open, to ensure that the good ray will reach you. So another important thing is to remember to check your vitamin D levels and, if necessary, supplement, because as I told you, there is the issue of skin aging, which can impair its natural conversion. And in many more chronic cases of vitamin deficiency, it may be necessary, with the help of a doctor or nutritionist, to take supplements. I have a really cool video here on the channel talking about the ideal blood levels of vitamin D and ideal supplementation levels. This video is very complete, really great. I'll leave it down here in the description to help you out. Tell me down here then, which of these signs you have already felt if you have felt any. I would love to see your comment. Remember to like the video, it is very important to me. And if you know someone who would benefit, share this video, okay? Let's expand our chain of kindness. That's what I want here with the channel. While you're at it, if you're new, subscribe to the channel. I have a new video every day. You'll love it for sure. See you next time. Bye.